Are we just starting?
Yep.
We're just going? All right.
Yes.
Sounds good.
So I don't believe in free will, and I think it would benefit society to not believe in free will.
Free will, like everything in the universe is not controlled by someone?
As in the decisions that you make, like free will means that the decisions that you make are purely the decisions that you make.
Oh, okay.
And there's nothing
Sounds
like
good.
that can influence that or whatever because you are fully free.
Okay, and you believe that doesn't exist.
No, we are chemicals and we are influenced by genes and experience.
Jeans and a plaid shirt.
Yes. So like
Wait, I thought free will had to do with was more of a religion term, wasn't it? Like free will is like
God gave people free will.
No. What I mean is free will is like you are governed by a certain entity and you are like pieces on a board and that entity is moving you type thing. I thought that's my concept of not free will.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
a
feel
concept of not free will. But then there's another religious, like, because religions conflict with themselves all the time.
Yep.
In that, like, oh, no, like, God gave you free will so that, like, you are the one who chooses to let Christ into your heart. But I don't believe in free will because, like, everything that we do, everything that we choose, everything that we say is influenced by previous experience and
But
genes.
isn't previous experience still you?
Yeah.
I feel like we're conflicted on the term free will.
Yes.
Right
and
now.
that's something else that is difficult in the thing is
All
that
right,
like
okay. Because like in my sense of, because like I don't necessarily believe free will is a thing either, but that's like my concept of free will is you're not controlled by any other thing in the universe.
Mhm.
Because I feel like, you know, there's some force out there moving us all, you know, like maybe there's a gigantic potato that's moving us across a chessboard or something. But like that's my concept of we don't have free will and we are being like so we think we are, you know, moving on our own course on our own accord, but we're not, and that's totally fine.
right.
That's what I think of by like free will. So
Sure,
like
sure.
when I think of your thing, like the chemicals and the genes and stuff.
Yeah, like it's
To
just
me,
a science-based.
to me that's still you that's making the decisions.
yes,
Yeah.
like we still make decisions. Like
Right.
it's not to say that because you don't have free will, you don't make decisions. It's just that that's the decision that you would have made,
Well, right.
given everything led up to it.
But isn't that still free will? Like if those are the decisions that you make because of your experiences, I feel like that's still free will.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have chosen otherwise.
Yeah. Right.
Like, and you literally cannot choose otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, sure, why not?
Because, like, that's exactly what you would have done.
Yeah. But like if you had different experiences, you would have done something different, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
Right. I feel like that's still free will though.
But it's not, because you're not, like, there's nothing magical about the thing that caused you to make that decision. Everything led up to you doing that.
Yeah. I guess.
Like, literally your genes and your experience determined that decision for you.
Huh. All right.
And so it's like, oh, like you mentioned in the last one, like, oh, well, if I'm going to eat a banana tomorrow, like, so if you eat a banana tomorrow, like, this conversation will be one of the things that contribute to your decision about eating a banana tomorrow.
True.
And so, like, that's not something you have a choice about.
Right.
We just had this conversation, and then that'll just influence your decision tomorrow anyways.
Huh. I feel like we agree. We're just not agreeing on the term of free will.
Right. But that's fine. But I think society would be benefited by not believing in free will. In that, so right now, like the justice system is like, you did a bad thing, you will be punished so that you no longer do bad things. And I think that's a barbaric, like backwards way of doing justice. Because what we should do is go, something in the world led to this person doing this bad thing. We don't want them to do this bad thing. So let's look at the environment and what led them to do this bad thing. Right. So let's evaluate the environment and then
fix the bigger thing, worry about the small things later.
Yeah. And then, but even with the small thing, like, oh, this person did this thing, we have to let them know and show them, like, hey, these are alternatives to doing that bad thing. So, like, we have to, like, literally reshape the environment to be able to accommodate better decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree, which is what makes it hard to continue this conversation. like I get what you're saying, and I totally agree. But like, I guess my question is like, can we at this stage of society and technology, like, are we able to achieve that, or is that something we should work on?
It would take a lot of effort.
Right. And I guess my question is, are people going to be willing to put in that effort? Because right now, I don't think they are. There's not enough people.
Right now, it's very difficult.
Right.
But, so one of the biggest steps in changing the world is education.
Right.
People have to be aware of the possibility.
Right.
Because if I always use this example in regarding free will, if someone grew up in the hood or whatever and like hasn't ever, like, college or an education hasn't ever really seemed like an option to them because no one's told them, no one's ever like explained that to them, and then they get involved in some gang, and that gang like is the people that takes care of them their entire life or whatever, then how the heck are they supposed to know, like, instead of doing this gang activity, I'm going to study hard, get good grades, get a scholarship, and go to college? Like, that was never put into their environment. And
also, like, how do they change mindsets when someone tells you that's not the right way to do things?
Right. Because all of their life experience has shown them that, oh, I do these things for the gang and they keep me alive. And if I do wrong by the gang, they keep me not alive.
Right. So classic Darwinism in action.
Yeah. And so, like, if that's the way that we approach all options in, like, education, you have to educate people from the very beginning and being like, hey, look, I know that you're living in the rough part of town or whatever, but, like, we want to make it clear to you, we want to educate you and show you that, like, hey, these are other options for your life. And once that, like, seed is planted of knowledge that, like, hey, if you work hard or if you, like, learn all your stuff, you can get a scholarship, and, like, regardless of your socioeconomic status, hopefully,
big dreams here,
then you can, I mean, hey, you went to a very expensive school and had lots of scholarships, so, like, yeah. And I did not have lots of scholarships because I'm not as skilled or have enough musical training.
I don't think it had anything to do with that, actually.
It probably has more to do with having more money in the beginning to be able to have musical training in the first place. But having that education in the first place to be aware of the possibilities is important in changing the world.
That also involves changing
Education.
yeah, changing education, which is a whole nother can of like preserved worms that we need to open.
They might as well be snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and we've seen changes in that already. That like there are some college degrees that should not be college degrees because you can just look shit up.
Yeah.
True. Like there are some people, like one of my best friends, he like has built his car and like work on his car, and he like has a project car that he's been working on and putting together by himself. He's not had a like education in like mechanical engineering or anything.
Right.
He's just been looking stuff up through like Google and YouTube and figuring out how to make this car function. So like at this point, like, yes, it's good to like go to technical schools and stuff, but at the same time, like most of the stuff you can look up, and just having the experience of doing the thing is equivalent to just getting an education in it and paying a lot of money for it. Like,
this is true.
At this point, all you need is an internet connection.
Yeah. I think the like diplomas and like college diplomas just tell you like do you have common sense, because that's really all it takes to graduate with like any type of degree. You know, the other parts you can just kind of figure out, you know, going to a school for music. I mean, yes, it's kind of hard to self-teach yourself music, but like in the end you can, as long as you think about it really hard and watch YouTube videos, I guess. And I mean, there's stuff out there.
I think at this point people probably could, like, I mean, a lot of people, especially even like here at ACM, like a lot of people have taught themselves guitar. I taught myself how to play guitar.
Right. I did too.
Not necessarily through like YouTube or anything, but like just like there are resources available that you can just teach yourself music.
And so like the only thing it really shows is that you have common sense, I guess. Is like the general education classes. You know, like I don't know, methods of scientific inquiry, stuff like
just
that.
Having like, so Sable, my girlfriend, has a humanities degree, and like humanities doesn't really mean much,
right?
As far as like, I want a job in blank, like
it's very like broad.
But what it does say is that she was willing to put forth the effort in like writing these essays, doing this research, has a cultural understanding of certain things, and like, so that says something very specific about what she had to go through to obtain that degree.
Right. I mean, common sense, effort. I mean, it's just kind of things that you don't know until you talk with them, I guess. And no one wants to talk with people on an intellectual level when they're hiring, so they're just like, let me look at your resume real quick. And it's like, and I guess that's one way of doing it. It's just, I guess it's just faster. So it's more convenient for the people that are hiring, I guess.
I think like there's one internet comic, Saturday morning breakfast cereal cartoons, and he did one of like a job interview, and it was like, why is it that you need this job? And he says, I'm willing to exchange services for currency in order to not die. And then it's like, what makes you good for this position? Because I'm willing to put forth effort to exchange services for currency in order to not die. And that should basically be every job interview.
I mean, it basically is, right? Like they look at your resume and it either shows that you will put in effort or you won't put in effort.
Yes. But I mean, yes, education is one thing, and we do have to get to a point where we are beyond like education just teaching common sense.
Yeah.
Like common sense education should be like, I don't know.
Taught by parents.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Friends
like
and
also just
family.
the bare minimum in that hopefully by the time that you are an adult you have reached a certain level of common sense.
Yeah. Although, to be honest, as much as I would love that to happen, I don't think humans are smart enough for that to be, like, turned into reality.
I don't know. I mean, like, Japan is very successful in having, like, very smart high school kids.
Yeah, Japan is also very small. And, like, there's also very strict governing.
Mhm.
And so it's like, it's hard for you to compare somewhere like Japan to America, I
Right,
guess, where it is a lot more free and it's like a lot more,
Diverse.
it's definitely diverse. There's a lot more opportunity to be more successful than someone else, which is what people are coming for, right? Or staying for, because that's like the whole motto of the States, right?
Right, right.
You come here from other countries to be more successful than others. What is it, like the American dream or whatever
Yes.
it's called?
Yeah.
Is what made people
Well, I
immigrate.
mean, for the most part, honestly, I think it's more just like, at least in my case, it's like, it's either come to a country where you don't die or stay in a country where you do die.
Right.
And that's how it is for lots of people. So,
Yeah. And it's like great that America exists. I mean, it's like a saving grace for a lot of people. But, for some people they just kind of come to become better than other people and then they're kind of sad when they don't succeed.
yeah, well,
And that's like blaming it on the economy, but it's like, wait a second, you made this decision yourself, or you could have been perfectly happy. The general gist of what I'm trying to say is you can't complain about something after you've like if you've moved from somewhere where you would have been perfectly successful, like I don't know, Japan, you can't come to the States and be like, wow, this place has a lot higher crime rate and I'm not getting paid as much money. It's like, well, I mean, there was no guarantee that it was going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess in that regard, is Japan still like successful in its education? In that it the people that come out of Japan's education have more success in life?
It's hard to say. There's definitely a lot of people, when you think of successful, like when you think of universities and stuff, there's a lot of stuff in the States that have very high reputation across the globe. Just because they're big, they're new, they featured,
Have a lot of money.
right? Lots of money, lots of diversity.
Well, depending on how much money there is, it's less diversity.
Right. But, I'm not sure. Japan does have 100% literacy rate.
Yeah.
Whether that means anything or not.
It means that everyone can communicate through written words.
Yeah.
Hopefully well enough. I don't know what typos look like in Japanese or grammatical errors look like in Japanese, but I don't know. I was about to make an analogy, but I don't know if I know well enough to.
Yeah. And there's also a lot less crime rate, I guess. But once again, like I said, it is governed very strictly.
Yes.
And it's very small.
Right.
So,
but I will say something about the way that it's also very culturally governed. That
Right.
there's a lot of social pressure on things that aren't necessarily law.
Mm-hmm.
But that social pressure in some cases is generally positive. Like, hey, go to school, get good grades.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
while there's some of that pressure here, it is nowhere near to the same extent that it is in Japan. And in Japan, it is to the extent that it's dangerous and there's a high suicide rate. But
Yeah. I
it
mean, I guess it comes down to the point, like, do you want to live somewhere where you kill yourself, or do you want to, live somewhere where you get killed by something else? Like,
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
a gruesome comparison, but that's
sure.
kind of what it boils down to on some
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get to a point to where the most dangerous thing is
You killing yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you don't have to worry about a lion killing you or a random criminal killing
Disease.
you or disease or something, but literally just like I hate myself, then like you surpassed a whole lot of other problems.
Right.
So sad as it is, like it's sort of a luxury to be able
Right.
to
And, like, I guess from an
not, which is also, sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
it's all good.
not to minimize,
Right.
like nobody should kill themselves.
Right.
There's too much good to be done. But sorry,
What was I saying? Something about
culture, pressure.
pressure, something about, okay, but like that also like brings me back to the point where like it's governed very strictly and it's very small. So like that's one of the things you have to, I guess, not necessarily sacrifice, but sacrifice if you want that kind of living environment, I guess, where like government has a decent amount of interaction with you, and it's very low possibility that you're going to be better than someone else economically, but everybody is fairly stable. Whereas America, there's like, high class, middle class, low class.
And they're very distant
Yeah.
from each other.
But there's a lot of freedom, relative to how the government interferes and how you
Sure.
do stuff. And so I think that is the trade-off. I'm not sure there can be a place where there is the best of both worlds, no matter how hard you try.
I mean, at some point you're just kind of trying to like reduce the the arc of the sine wave. Like
Right.
in one direction it's like it's really free, and then but like there's a whole lot of other problems. In the other
Right.
direction it's like there's less problems, but like it's very, very strict.
Right.
And so it's like going from that like authoritarian to like libertarian.
And so I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but definitely pick, where you live depending on what you want. Like you can't move there and then expect something different and then complain about it all your life.
Yeah.
It's like the video game meter. Like, do you want it fast or do you want the graphics to look really good?
Yeah.
It's like one or the other, where you have to slide the scale, but you can't, you can't get both.
Like freaking in the whenever you're like creating a character in like Skyrim or something, and you're like, oh, I want like the nose to be this big, and it like changes like 3 other parameters, and you're like, no, I just wanted the nose to change.
Or just when you're like messing with the graphics, like how fast do you want this game to run? Like 1 FPS or 60 FPS looking like Minecraft?
But like the 1 FPS looks like a freaking painting.
Right.
But you died.
Right.
You died very quickly. I do think that I made like the wave comparison, but I also make like a asymptote comparison, that over time we sort of get closer to an ideal, but with an asymptote, like it just gets infinitely closer, but never there, because there's no perfect society, obviously, but like I guess bringing back that like luxury problem, in that like it's kind of nice that in the United States we've gotten past so many problems that people can complain about women's pocket sizes. That like if we have so many microaggressions to be concerned about, we've actually solved a lot of other problems.
At least it's not a civil war, right?
Right. Or we've just become blind to very
that's
important
another
problems.
Scary thought.
Yeah. Which is also true, I think.
Yeah. But going back to your like ideal society thing, have you read Candide by Voltaire?
I haven't yet. I think I plan to.
It's a book
I
about
have a list.
optimism. It's really neat. I won't spoil it for you, or maybe I will.
I don't care.
I don't know. All right.
It's an old book. I think
it is an old book.
I think we're past the statute of limitations on Voltaire.
But so the main character goes through a lot of hard shit, for lack of better term, and not spoiling it. But somewhere in the middle of the book, he finds El Dorado, the city of gold. And he's like, "Oh, this is El Dorado, like magical city of gold. This is like perfect."
Yeah.
But like after being there for like 5 minutes, he's like, "Wait, this is perfect, but it's also really, really boring." And like this girl that I have a crush on is not here, so I'm just gonna leave. And so that's kind of what I think.
But that's an interesting perspective, though, because like I think it's only coming from the perspective of where we are now, because even where we are now, like I think that the microaggressions just like look bigger as we continue to make progress. And so it's like if you zoom out on the asymptote, like, and we're like, if you zoom out far enough, we're basically touching the line.
Right.
But if you zoom in and you keep zooming in, we're so far from the line, like.
And that's the thing, I think, with anything and everything, is you'll never like reach perfection. Like perfection is a goal. It's like the infinity on a graph, right? Like no matter how hard you try, you'll never reach it, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Because as soon as people are content, it just stops getting better.
Exactly.
And you know, like people complaining about stuff isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. It means there's room for improvement. And as long as there's room for improvement, people are going to keep trying. And people, I say in a general term, people will keep trying to get better, have better societies, And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing at all.
But that is kind of why I think that, like, if at some point we make more progress and we don't die in a fiery, hellish Holocaust, then, like, just because we fixed a lot of the major problems in society now, like, so I don't know if you ever heard of the Venus Project. It's something that, like, has guided my philosophy since, like, I don't know, my freshman year or maybe even middle school. But it's this idea of modeling a society that utilizes, like, science and technology. And, like, you can compare it to communism, you can compare it to, like, utopianism, but it like, it's not because it never tries to be. And so it really just tries to solve problems.
Solve problems-ism?
And so like, so first and foremost, it goes like, so what do we have in our society, and like, what is sort of a root of the problem? Because if you just find the root of the problem, then you don't have to like keep
Right.
dealing with symptoms. And so it identifies like money as one of the roots of the problem. And so in a resource-based economy, you go, here are the resources available, and here are like, this is the things that we need, and here's what we have. And that's like basically it. Like, as opposed to like with money, where there's just like an arbitrary number of like the thing that gets you the thing, but like the resources themselves don't exist in the same amount.
Life is just like a glorified version of Settlers of Catan, right? You need 10 victory points to win. Get your victory points somehow.
Right. But like, that's the thing, that at some point, like, sorry guys, there's just no more sheep.
Yeah.
Like, like, yes, you built 3 cities around the sheep, but there's no more sheep. Like, we're out of sheep cards, guys.
Right.
Like,
Can't get any more sheep.
yeah. And so like, and that's the thing, that you have to work with what's available. But, and I'm digressing so much by talking about the Venus Project, but like, it also discusses like, there's no need for government if like science and reason are the things that guide us. So a very general example, like, your parent can be like, don't touch the stove, meh, and like make that rule with an iron fist.
Right. 25% of the population is going to touch the stove anyway.
Right. Well, like, ruling with an iron fist, like, don't touch the stove, like, sure, you achieve the goal of like not having the child hurt himself or herself. But like, you can also just be like, hey, the stove is hot. If you touch it, you will get hurt. And that's like, that's not like a value judgment. That's just like a fact that like, hey, this is hot. It will hurt because you have neurons that send pain signals.
Right. I think the thing with governance is how many people are you governing, you know? And I think that was the big thing of like society and stuff, right? Like, if you have 4 people, do you need a governor? Like, no. If you have 8 people, do you need a person of governance? Not really. If you have
a leader, I don't know.
If you have like 30 people, like, what is that, like 7 families? Like, do you need governance? Like, not really. But like, at one point, even with the lots of, common sense, all the science, at what point do you need?
Right. And that's why at some point, rather than it being like a person, because like, I don't think like this notion that human nature is like inherently evil is deluded and
over exaggerated.
Yeah, over exaggerated, and using a perspective in a capitalist selfish society that encourages selfishness. And so it's like, oh, if everything in your environment is telling you to be selfish, then of course you would think that human nature is selfish. But even still, putting humans in positions where they can do irresponsible things, at some point a human will do an irresponsible thing.
Right.
I'm not saying that's human nature. I'm saying that's like statistically like.
I think it is, though. I think that's what curiosity does.
Sure,
and that's
curiosity, but
that's that's how I say curiosity killed the cat.
Right, but like, even just flatly statistically, like, over time, the human will do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And so instead, why should we trust humans? Like, we were having this conversation.
All right. So
earlier.
what do we, if we're supposed to make this society and we can't trust a human to be the leader, what do we use as the leader when we get to the point of where the society is so big that we do need a leader?
A calculator. Like, literally just math.
But how does that stop curiosity? Like, how does that stop a person of curiosity from doing the wrong thing?
Well, because, like, the math told you not to. Like,
Well, yeah, but
yeah,
government
and
tells you not to, but people do the wrong thing all the time.
It's more about giving the reason. And so it goes back to education. Like, if you understand why you shouldn't in the first place, you're less likely to do so. And then you put, like, social pressure around the thing, because humans are social creatures. And so, like, yes, you use the reason, but then you use, like, social pressure to encourage the reason. And so, like, it's one thing to be, like, mathematically, like, hey, look, stove hot. But then, like, if you have a parent that cares about you and is like, hey, I love you and I don't want you to be hurt, I have this reason as to why you shouldn't do this, then you have that social incentive as well as the actual reason.
So what are you going to do if all that fails? What are you going to do if all that fails? Like, what do you do if you have your maths, if you have your social pressure, and someone still goes off and, you know,
The benefit is greater than
irrational.
What we have now.
You know? True. That is true.
Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that we shouldn't go for it.
But after you expand it to greater numbers, does the maths and the social pressure, will it be enough, I guess? And how do you get the calculator to be the governing factor? When, I don't know, like, what are you imagining as the calculator that is the governing factor?
Right. A big old, like, resource management, like, software, I guess. I don't know. Like, it just literally calculates, like, there are this many bananas on the planet right now. This is the world population. This is the world population that requires bananas at this point in time. This is how many bananas are available.
So what if someone is
and
like...
using technology and stuff, like, abundance is available, and so it's like not everyone is going to need all of the bananas at once anyways. And so it's like, and nothing should go to waste. So, like, even if someone goes like, I want 40,000 bananas, they only end up eating 3 of them, the rest of those bananas just go back into the stockpile. Because math.
I mean, conceptually it works.
Right,
Does
right.
it work in reality? That's like...
Yeah, and that's it's like a form of pseudo communism. I'm not a communist because I don't like power. And we see what happens when humans get in power. I mean, I joke that I'm a communist, but, like, communism in general is, like,
a joke?
It's a joke because it puts people in power, and then you are ignoring the whole reason for the philosophy in the first place.
Yeah.
But, like, what was what even was your question in the first place?
Does it, like, conceptually it works, but does it work realistically?
We can test it, but we also have evidence. We have evidence in small scales. We have evidence in like egalitarian communities that do these things already, just through logic, as in like hunter-gatherer communities that just like pool all their resources together, all work together and go like, hey, like we have this many berries, like cool, like we can eat berries. And then if we go like, oh no, we're low on like deer meat, then if one of the people in the tribe goes, I'm gonna eat the deer meat, and then if like people find out like, hey, that guy ate the deer meat, what the hell, like, he will be socially reprimanded for that, or she, I guess. So like we have evidence of societies doing so in certain scales, but we can also test in larger scales. Yeah. but then also like, so going back to like the free will thing, that if someone per se steps out of line, whatever the line is, but really just does something that is not encouraged in the society, rather than go like, ooh, we have to lock you up or whatever, we go like, hey, like we're gonna take you to this like health facility because it seems that you are unwell, because killing people is not a sane thing to do or think.
Yeah. I don't think. Well, because, America as a colony was in relatively, they were doing pretty well. And then numbers started, increasing. And then in the end, they start, pushing Indians out, incorporating enslavement.
Right, but there's other factors involved in that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's no way you can build a successful society that big without having, outliers and other factors.
Yes,
stopping you, and to a certain point. Well, not to a certain point, but once there's enough outliers, that's what becomes the problem to your society, no matter how like conceptually solid it might be.
But the thing is that at some point, like, so our society looks at outliers and goes, bad. Science looks at outliers and goes, interesting.
Right.
And
that's a very modern way of the approach.
Right. And so being able to look at outliers, approach dissidence and disagreement, and being able to acknowledge it and have a dialogue with it rather than try to shut it down, is important. Because if someone so radically thinks that their idea is so much better than everything else, then we should look into it. Because if they're so convinced about it, like, we should look into it. And, then we have like a dialogue, and then, whatever comes out of that comes out of that. There should never be a point where we go, we're good, we're done developing, we're done, like, oh, look, the self-driving cars are, going this fast and this efficient. It's like, let's go for more. Like, let's always make it more efficient. Let's waste less. And so anyone who is like, I don't like the way that we do this, and it's like, oh, cool, let's see if we can improve that then.
But after a certain point, I feel like that kind of society works as long as it's not an X number of people. Does that make sense? Like, after an X number of people, I don't think that starts to not work very well, because there's too many people.
And that's where stuff starts becoming decentralized. In that, like, are you familiar with Dunbar's number? Dunbar's number is the number of people that we can sort of like conceptually have in our minds. And it's close-ish to 100. I think. Last I checked, I don't remember. But once we exceed that number, I think it's like 80 to 100. Once we start exceeding that, people stop becoming like names and faces, and they start becoming just like
Right.
conceptual ideas in our minds. And so we can see that in like communities that like exceed Dunbar's number.
You mean like college?
Yeah. In that like you get like smaller groups that like divide up because humans can't keep track of that many people at the same time. And so like being able to be decentralized but still communicating is a factor of nature. That like, yes, like our brain does all the stuff, but like the thing that makes our heart beat is in our heart, not in our brain. So stuff like that, the like being decentralized and being able to work as like a web of communities rather than one giant ball. And that same analogy extends to like power sources. So if we have like a centralized like power source, then someone can just like unplug that one power source and then like the whole city goes down. It's like,
Right.
oh no, what happened? But like if you have like if everyone has a solar panel on their roof, like you can't unplug all of the solar panels at once because everybody's getting power at the same time from
True.
everything. Yeah. And I mean, I also don't have all of the answers because obviously I'm giving very, very broad answers for some
Right.
of these things, but like
I mean, at this point, I'm just throwing stuff at you to question you.
right. But I mean, I think it's important to have the dialogue because I'm not okay with like just accepting the way that things are.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think anyone should just accept the way things are.
And
I mean, that's not to say that you should complain about it all your life and try to do something
sure.
about it. But like in the like those are totally conflicting things, right? Like you should never be okay with it, but you shouldn't go around your whole life, contemplating it, being depressed about it, right?
Sure.
And there's this nice little middle ground.
Yeah.
That is a healthy place to be.
That should inspire action, but not to the point of
right.
harm.
Yeah.
And just because I feel like transitioning into it, I feel that way a lot about music, that there's so many rules in place that like all music is arbitrary, all of it.
Right.
And like I acknowledge that, but then still whenever I sit down to write some music, I'm like, oh, well, I can't do this. It's like, why do I do that to me?
There's rules only because of period practice, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts to apply less and less as you climb up the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at the classical music and, play less romantically, or like you look at counterpoint stuff and it's like you can't do this, and that's just for like research purposes and why things sound as they do. Because I think the rules for music is more of why does it sound this way as opposed to don't do this.
Patrick, my composition teacher, he kind of shits on music theory a lot, because like music theory tries to give explanations for things that kind of don't have explanations that
Yeah.
like
Or don't really need
yeah
explanations.
and so like it gives names and titles to things that like just kind of are.
Right. Yeah. So like it's good to learn just so you know why it sounds this way, right? Like
Mm,
one of the counterpoint rules is don't write parallel fifths
mhm.
because it sounds very open. But that's a counterpoint rule, like right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
counterpoint teaches you that well counterpoint is two or more independent lines.
Mhm.
And so if it's all going in the same motion, it doesn't really seem they don't really seem independent of each other.
Mhm.
And the fact that you don't get a sense of key
Mhm.
or
Because
anything
yeah.
like that when you move in parallel perfect motion.
Mhm.
And so that's like the science behind it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's nothing in the world that says, like if you're writing music, don't write parallel fifths. It's
Right,
more
right.
of a if you want to have audible major minor harmonies in your music, don't write them because you doesn't work. But like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're writing like something that sounds a little tribal or something, go for it.
Mhm.
Like parallel fifths sound great,
Sure, sure. Yeah.
And so they teach you music theory, but music theory is more of like why does something sound this way? It's more of like a brain picking science than
Mhm.
a this is what it is and this is
Mhm.
important, I think,
Yeah.
to me anyway. Because like I don't care why someone wrote a piece like that. Like I don't really care the reason for Mozart writing something, but I
Mhm.
do care about how it sounds that way, or like
Mhm.
why it sounds like that.
Yeah. And I'm honestly a little the opposite. Like whenever I see like music theory analysis and go, "Oh, this did like a 5 to 6. Hey, look, that's a deceptive cadence."
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah, that did like how was that deceptive? Because it like did a 5
Yeah,
to 6 and like that's the analysis point of view from it. But to me, I'm just like there's like two chords next to each
all
other
right.
like
Like a deceptive cadence is a very classical term,
right,
you
right,
know.
right. And it's like it's only deceptive if you have 5 to 1 so built into your brain.
Right. And I think a lot of us with classical training do, but
Mhm.
there's lots of people that are just like have strictly had contemporary training, and
Mhm.
there's like not a lot of you know cadences, you know.
Right. Something that I've noticed in a lot of contemporary music is that uh, a lot of pop music, instead of using a 5 to 1 cadence, a lot of pop music uses a 4 to 1 cadence.
Yep.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting by comparison, I guess.
All right. It's interesting to us.
Well, because like for hundreds of years,
Right.
it's been 5 to 1. And then it's like, I like moving across the neck of the guitar.
All right. But I'm sure people with contemporary training think that our music is interesting harmonically, at least the people that think in terms of harmony.
Maybe. I think it just like, because sometimes, I don't know, because that 4 to 1, like, resolution is like relatively new. Because if you go back to like, I don't know, Elvis and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, 16451, like, was the progression.
What?
But that's like the progression for like classical as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so like I don't know, listening to a Unchained Melody uh uh by the I can't even remember who it was, something boys, the song from Ghost.
But yeah, I think, and yeah, that's like the big thing about music, right? It's like there are no rules, but there are reasons why things sound certain
Yes.
ways, and I think that's important because like you could write a C major chord to an F sharp major chord all day and be like, man, I love this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a reason it doesn't sound like 5-1, and that's
Yeah.
because you're going from C to F sharp, which is a tritone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like, and then you have the problem of like fighting academia and fighting everyone else and fighting the culture and going like, look, I just wanted to write a F sharp to C.
Right.
And like,
And there's nothing wrong
you
with
have,
that.
yeah, but you have hundreds of years and like all these academics going, no, that's a tritone. You can't do that. Why? Please stop.
I mean, for a while, the ancient music, like the Gregorian music, was like, don't use thirds. Those are like the devil's intervals.
Right, right.
And now we're just like, man, we love thirds, like major,
yeah.
minor.
Oh, yeah.
Thirds. Distinguish. Being able to distinguish them is
Yeah.
is great. They sound great. And you know, and then back then they were like, don't do augmented seconds. And we look at the Arabic music and we're like, yeah, double harmonic scale. I love the augmented seconds.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I feel like there's a lot of like, how do I please my audience? But this is like a compositional standpoint at this point. But like a lot of it is, how do I please the performer? Because people can like the music, but it is not going to be played if your performer does not like it, you know? Like if it sounds good, but it's a bitch to play, like no one's going to play it.
Right, right.
But like if it's fun to play and it sounds good, you know, then sure, go for it. Because like in the end, you have to cater to not what you want to write, but also what the performer wants to play. And it's become, you know, less and less about the audience. Like during Mozart's time, it was like, you know, pleasure the audience. And that's why all of Mozart stuff generally sounds the same, right? Just got to slap notes on the page, make it sound good. So just steal from myself.
Right.
But now,
I mean, Haydn like put jokes in the music to be like, are you paying attention?
Right.
Hey,
Are you?
Hey, look.
Do you get this?
Yeah.
And yeah. And you know, after that, Beethoven started being more about, you know, like commercial, about just the audience, you know, listen to this. Yes, they are listening. So like, what can I do to make each piece different? And so we see that like Beethoven stuff sounds like Beethoven, but they don't all sound the same.
Right.
You know? And so like after a certain point, composition becomes like pleasing the audience. But like, you know, right now it's not the era for that. There's so many different sounds, so many different, you know, a lot of cultural intertwinement. So now it's just what, with your music, what can you say about yourself? And if you're writing it for a specific someone, what does it say about the performer? And so a lot of it is this hierarchy that we've established. And, you know, now in this modern era, we're at this perfect, I guess, triangle of audience, performer, composer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to a certain extent, like, I mean, we, pun intended, romanticized Beethoven because he sort of like wrote for himself as well.
He's good for us composers.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, the first instance of just, you know, he strayed from the norm, you know?
Because he wanted to express himself.
Because he wanted to express.
Right. Well, yeah. And, you know, being deaf, he's not going to.
I mean, there are some definitely strange harmonies in his later works, but I mean, hey.
Hey, the guy couldn't hear it. It's fine.
Also, it's not even that strange compared to, like, you know.
Freaking Bartok.
Right.
Or I guess if you want to go even, like, Schoenberg and
Right.
But I mean, I think in this day and age, it, like, I am writing to make sure that I like it,
Mm-hmm.
and then whenever I'm proud of it, I show it to other people and hope that they like it.
Yeah, and I think that's the general process right now, because you don't want to work on something that you don't like.
Right.
Like if people like hearing this kind of music, that's great. But like if you don't want to work on it, then
Yeah, exactly.
like, you know, a lot of people like the contemporary, you know, sound effect type of music,
Mm-hmm.
and like I could cater to that. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
could do that, but like I don't like it, so
Yeah,
why
yeah.
would I work on it? You know?
Yeah. And then even like me as a songwriter, like it's like write happy songs or something. And it's like it's not that I'm not happy. It's just that I don't really write happy songs.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel the same way writing a happy song and expressing that, because I know what
Yeah.
happiness feels like. I feel that all the time. But expressing like other emotions, trying to process them, and like sadness and like
Right. Yeah,
other sort of stuff, then like yeah, that's why I don't write happy songs, I guess. But
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna reduce my, I don't know, however pretentious it sounds, I'm not gonna reduce my craft so that other people enjoy it and I don't.
Mm-hmm. I think nowadays is a really good time to be writing music, though, because people just want to hear you.
Mhm.
You know, like if they want to hear something that sounds like Mozart, they'll just go listen to Mozart.
Yeah, there's plenty of Mozart.
Yeah. Or if they want to hear, you know, some leads, great, go listen to Schubert. But no, it's really good right now. I think it's a really balance between within the hierarchy of composer, performer, and audience, because if they're listening to your music, they want to listen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get into that.
And so I guess that's like the advice for all those like the composition people out there that are, you know,
yeah.
writing music, trying to please other people.
Yeah.
But
Sound
more
like
than
you.
anything, just, you know, please yourself, please your performer. Because
Yeah.
if you guys are both pleased, you know, the audience is going to be pleased, because
Yeah,
that's what they're listening for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sound like you
Yeah.
is the because
And-
even outside of like composition, but like songwriting or even just playing an instrument, like sound like you, and whatever, even if you sound like someone else, like that's okay too.
Right. And that goes with like non-music stuff too. Like I think we talked about this in the last one, but like don't try to change yourself to please the people
Yeah, exactly.
around you. And that's like the best application of stuff like that. Like for music is like don't try to sound like anyone else, just be you. And like in the real world, you know, don't your goal isn't to please the people around you, especially those that you like meet once in your lifetime and never meet them again.
Yeah.
Just, you know, be you. And like that doesn't mean like for job interviews go in there with like unprofessionally, but it does mean
I guess it depends on the job.
right. But you know, there are professional ways of being you, and then there are professional ways of trying to be someone else. And I guess it's hard right now, I guess, with the job and the economy and stuff, kind of. And I guess it's hard to just, you know, be yourself. But I think the more and more people are willing to just be themselves, like society will start to revolve. around
Right. I think people are drawn to that.
that. Yeah.
Like, I was listening to this podcast today, and they were making like penis jokes, but like it's one thing, like whenever a woman finds it unattractive that like, oh, you have a small penis or you have a large penis, what a woman finds unattractive is that you're so hung up about it.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really even matter about the size of your penis. It's the fact that you're like, am I too big or am I too small? Am I too bleh? Or like,
And that's the thing about
what
like
does it, nah.
human relations, right? Like if someone likes you, they like you for you.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully, if they don't like you for you, then you need to find someone else. But like if
Yes.
someone truly likes you for you, they're not, they're not really gonna care about that kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like that with girls too. Like about like their body shapes and their boobs and stuff. It's just like, you know, if someone likes you for you, just accept it and move on.
Yeah, be
like
you.
stop complaining.
And if you like, if you want to be like happier about yourself and like, don't lose weight because you think that guys will find you more attractive.
Yeah.
Lose weight because you want to be
want
happy
to,
with
yeah.
yourself.
But like I mean if you're happy with how
And
you
if you're
are,
happy with yourself,
then don't do it.
Yeah.
Cuz you can't make other people happy if you're not happy. And that goes to the thing like you can't help people if you haven't helped yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is all coming together in this giant circle of like it doesn't matter if other people are happy or like it doesn't matter if other people are pleased. If you're not pleasing yourself, then why does it matter? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not their life, it's your life. I'm still doing hand motions over here and no one can see
Right,
me.
that's
But
fine.
like don't stress about things that aren't yours to stress about. Like people can you can try to change people's image of you all you want, but in the end, if it's not you, then like is it even worth the effort?
Right, right. And to get a little like philosophy heavy, so we could be like, we could be a brain in a bat, but all of our experiences are like this thing. Like the only experience that we have is this one. And so first and foremost, like take care of your own experience, make sure that you're alive and such, and then, help other people. And if that makes you feel good too, then awesome.
Right.
But like your own experience is the only one you're ever going to get. So you should probably take care of that one too.
Right. And that's not to say you should focus solely on yourself, right?
Yeah,
but like,
no. Don't be a weird...
Yeah, don't be an ass.
Don't be a hedonistic psychopath.
Right, exactly. But like, the best way of taking care of others is by taking care of yourself first so they don't have to worry about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, yep, that's a nice little bow that we can tie right on the top of that.
Right? Yeah, it's pink and happy Christmas.
Right. Happy Christmas.
Merry New
you
Year's.
British. Cool. I'm Santiago Ramones.
Hi, this was Takayoshi Yago.
Where can we find your things? Once again, wait. The question that I always end the second podcast with is what is some stuff that you've been listening to or watching or playing that you've been enjoying a lot and that maybe other people would enjoy too?
I recently played some puzzle games with my friend. We meet on Thursdays and Fridays when he's free. So recently played a game called The Witness. It's a very thought-intensive puzzle game.
Yeah.
But it's,
Jonathan Blow makes very thinky games.
Yes, it's very, very good. Very puzzling, no pun intended. You have to figure out a lot of the rules to the puzzles, but it's very, very fun. Also recently played through Portal 1 and 2.
Also very good.
Gameplay is good. There's a lot of conceptual stuff, story stuff that is very, very excellent.
Excellent soundtracks too.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Very good, like dynamic and adaptive soundtracks.
Also hilarious at some moments.
Yes. Honestly, like Portal 2 is one of the best examples of how a video game soundtrack differs from like just a film score.
Right.
That it is adaptive and it's changing and it's dynamic with you in all the puzzles.
Also, a very good example of how a video game just should be. Like, excellent gameplay
Yeah,
mechanics, good music, good story, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What have I been watching? I don't know. I haven't been watching a lot of stuff. But,
Anime.
uh,
I haven't been watching much either.
not
I
a
think the last thing
lot
that I
of
watched
it.
was One Punch Man, and I still
One
haven't
Punch
finished.
Man was very good. He's getting a second season under a different studio, I think. But I have high hopes.
I've also
for
been
it.
watching My Hero Academia with Sable.
I've not
pretty
started
good.
that one.
It's pretty good. Listening to? What's
Listening to, I haven't been actively listening to stuff, but I'm always around the Baroque music. I'm in an
Right.
ensemble playing Baroque stuff. Super fun to play.
Yeah.
Especially because as a keyboard continuo player, you really get to make stuff up as long as it's, correct period performance wise.
Just throw some good flat 5/7s in there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Totally.
some good 13 chords.
Yep.
Great for Baroque music.
Right. Although some harmonies like that are more common than you expect. There's a lot of like suspension 9/11 stuff. Excellent when you get to play them actually.
Nice.
Super nerdy.
Did Bush write it?
Like if people could see me, like I would be punching you in the face, but people can't see me. So
Okay. I've been listening to some Arcade Fire. Clipping, still very, very good. I know you don't listen to that much contemporary stuff, but Clipping is a noise rap group. Very interesting.
one person I like listening to is a singer named Akeboshi. He's done some anime soundtrack, I think, for Naruto. But a lot of his songs are purely in English. His pronunciation's not that great, but I mean, there's a lot of good philosophy in there if you're looking for songs with some depth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Always looking for stuff with depth. That's the name of this podcast. Yeah. And then where can we find your stuff?
I'll give you some links and stuff to put on
Cool.
the thing.
Yep. It will be on the thing. Look at the description of this podcast. That's where you can find his things. Awesome. Again, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm Santiago Ramones.
Once again, this is Takayoshi Yago.
You can find all of the things that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music. I have this podcast. You can download the single Red, which is based off of another very good video game, Transistor. And you can pay $0 or you can pay many, many more dollars. However many dollars that you can fit into that number box, you can go ahead and throw right in there. It's fine. It's fine. Like, if I have to pay more taxes on how much I'm receiving from this, that would be pretty neat. Like, just the fact that I would have to pay taxes at all would be interesting. Yeah, and you can find all those things on my website. Hopefully soon, a demo of some songs with words that I've written will be out soon. I'm working on that album art. That's the only thing that stopped me from putting that out, but that will also be for $0 or for more dollars. I always end every podcast with my 3 things. Those things shape my life philosophy. Those things are: love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong,